Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of All Queued Up, our end-of-year mega show with special guests from Netflix, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, and a rare appearance by the movie theater. I'm your host, Greg Dietz, and with me always is Maya Don Fisher. How you been this week?
It's been a fucking wonderful week. Purely, just from an entertainment standpoint, best week of the year. But I mean, from a personal standpoint, a pretty fucking good week as well. So yeah, things are great. I just want to say, right off the bat, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. If you celebrate Christmas, we hope you have a wonderful Christmas here. If you celebrate other holidays, Happy Holidays to you and your holiday of choice. We hope that
Happy winter
it's just
solstice.
a wonderful. Yeah, that too. If you're a weirdo.
Well, the winter solstice is just.
I know.
Okay, I was like, I don't like. I guess if someone is Wiccan, you're a weirdo, but I consider like Christians to be more weirdos personally. But
they're all weird.
To each your own. But yeah, my week's also been pretty fucking good. I figured out a few things, and I'm having things working for me instead of me working for them, if that makes sense. That's very vague, and I'm leaving it vague. But we also had our little Secret Santa thing on this week, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
You fucking killed it in the trivia, by the way. Like, holy shit.
Was there any surprise?
A little bit. Like, I didn't think you knew that much about Christmas movies.
I guessed on a lot of the Christmas movies because, let's be fair, a lot of those movies I've never seen It's a Wonderful Life. I've never seen It's a Miracle on 34th Street. I've never seen, most of those movies that there were trivia questions about. I just guessed.
What's funny is that most of the people in there have seen those movies and still got it wrong because the trivia questions were very like, do you remember the name of the jacket the second extra was wearing in the scene of Elf? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's shit like that he was doing, and I'm like, I've seen Elf, I've seen Miracle on 4th Street, I've seen fucking It's a Wonderful Life multiple times. Still got those wrong. 100% got those wrong. Well, I actually corrected him on the It's a Wonderful Life question. Because the question was, finish the quote. Every time a bell rings,
an angel gets its wings, and he had his wings, and it should have been its wings.
Yes. Thank you. I was like, how did he write that? Because I know I corrected
the Die Hard one was wrong, flat out wrong movie. It's like the villain in Die Hard plays Simon Says, or plays What Game with John McClane, and he had Simon Says. And I'm like, not in the original Die Hard, he didn't. That was Die Hard 3, Die Hard with a Vengeance, with Samuel L. Jackson, and it was Hans Gruber's brother Simon that was doing the whole Simon Says thing.
Yeah. Because I read it and I was like, hide and seek? And then my brain was like, the answer is probably Simon Says because that is in a Die Hard movie. But I was like, I honestly couldn't remember if that was a thing in the first Die Hard.
It wasn't.
Well, yeah.
But, yeah, there were 77 questions. I ended up with a final score of 716, the only person to score over 700, actually.
What I would love to do, if I can with Jason next year, is I would love to work with him on the trivia. Mainly because I used to write trivia for a bar, like trivia night at a bar. I am meticulous with trivia.
Well, see, I did it last year. I set up most of it last year. I mean, he laid out the format, and I set up the trivia questions. This year, I was like, I've been going through some stuff, and I was just like, I don't have the time or the energy to devote to it this year. I said, I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to be any good to help out with the whole thing this year.
Yeah.
And he's like, I understand. So he and Bethany did it like the night before. They did it last minute.
Right.
They left they left two of the questions in that I had done from last year, which one of them I did get right. The other one I forgot completely and missed it.
What I'd love to do to him is like sometime in the middle of the year, do just like a trivia get together where we have like 5 categories of movies, and category 1 is sci-fi, category 2 is superhero, and you know, so on and so forth.
Yeah,
that'd be fucking fun as hell. But I love trivia. But I fucked up on the first round. I didn't know you had to click on it and then hit submit, so I got 0 points on round 1.
Well, there were 14 or 15 of us playing.
Yeah.
At the end of the first round, I was in 10th place because I literally didn't know the answers. I was just like, I'm missing these. I don't know. I'm missing these. I was like, I'm going to do poorly. And then I got into my groove, and I was in third spot. After the first round, I was in 3rd place the entire time until the last 2 rounds, and then I was in 1st.
Yeah, you fucking. You were like, let me put this into fucking turbo. This dude is fucking hilarious.
But it was cool, you know. It was nice to win a little gift card. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
ran a little long, but you know, it was still a good time.
It only ran long because there was a lot of like stopping between questions. If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like 75 questions is a lot, but it's also not like 2.5 hours a lot, you know?
No.
Long that ran.
But it was under 2 hours, just right at 2 hours, I think. And you know, for the amount of people that were participating and the amount of crosstalk and talking in between questions, that's what made it take so long.
Right.
And to be honest, we were all there to hang out with each other and, you know,
yeah.
kind of get in the Christmas spirit and have frivolity and camaraderie and all that. And
right.
Honestly, I needed it because I was having a rough day that day.
Yeah, I remember that. Well, speaking of 2 hours, we should probably get to the reviews, considering I wouldn't want somebody to listen to more than 2 hours of a podcast. But due to the nature of this podcast, with 4 things being talked about, we're going to not have a time limit, but we're definitely going to have a moment where like conversation is ended, and then we're going to do our final thoughts. And I'll just kind of wing that because you know how it is. You listeners know how it is. So the what we're discussing today, and I hope you're caught up with us, because look, it's a lot of content, but it was not that much content. We've watched more hours for this show in a week.
This is true. This is absolutely true, especially back in the days when we would do 2 entire seasons of things, and they would be like 13-hour-long episode seasons each.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's also when I didn't have a job, but that's besides the point. Or at least not as many hours of a job as I have now. Anyway. We're going to be discussing The Witcher season 2. Then we're going to move into South Park post-COVID, the return of COVID. Hawkeye Finale, or episode 6 of Hawkeye, and Spider-Man No Way Home. So, because if there's one thing we do on this damn podcast, it's we talk about Marvel a lot. So,
do we ever have a lot to talk about Marvel today?
Yes. So let's dive into Witcher, season 2. A lot fucking happened this season.
It absolutely did.
Like every episode had a major fucking thing happen. It felt like.
I only have one complaint about the entire season.
Not enough Jaskier?
Oh, I love Jaskier. You know, in the books he's called Dandelion.
Yeah. And isn't he called something else in the game too?
No, it's Dandelion.
Oh, okay.
In the original Polish translation, or the original Polish language, he's called something else, and they changed it to Dandelion because they wanted it to sound more masculine for the English translation. Right. And I'm sitting there thinking, I think you kind of missed the mark there.
Hey, my name is Marigold. Well, let's man that up. How about Dandelion? Yeah, I guess. I don't know how that manned it up, but here we go.
But yeah, I mean this season it started off, you know, where season 1 ended, of course, as most things do, picks right up after, you know, Geralt and Ciri finally come together for the first time. He has her on horseback, which his horse is called Roach. And they all
We'll get to it, but fucking not okay.
he's taking her to Kaer and they briefly, go by that battlefield where the big battle at the end of last season happened. And he's looking for Yennefer, and so are the other mages that were there at the battle. They're looking for Yennefer, and Tissaia is distraught because they can't find her, but her body's not there. Turns out she's been captured by the Nilfgaardians in Fringilla.
By the way, the shots of her looking into other soldiers' minds, and you get to see their first person's death, like, that was cool. That was really fucking
That
cool.
was very cool.
Like an axe to the fucking skull. I'm like, oh, goddamn.
But yeah, this first episode's just basically getting you caught up with where everybody is in the moment. Geralt and Ciri are traveling to Kaer Morhen, but on the way they come across a town, and it is, nearing the wintertime, and wintertime is when all the Witchers return to Kaer Morhen. They call it, wintering up, where they go home, heal, replenish their potions, repair their weapons, their armor, train, up their techniques, what have you, just to stay sharp. And there's a lot of drinking and feasting and just swapping stories and everything, because it's really the only couple of months of the year that they see each other. The rest of the time they're out on the road earning their way and killing monsters for coin.
Which I want to point out real quick that we've seen Kaer Morhen in an anime. I don't remember if they went to it in season 1.
No,
I didn't think they did.
Kaer Morhen in season 1 at all.
I thought maybe like in a flashback, but it's been in the games, and holy shit, did they nail the look and feel of that fucking location? Is it a castle? Do you want to call it a castle? I don't know. I don't want to call it.
It's a castle. It's absolutely a castle. I mean, it's got walls. It's got a keep.
Yeah, but oh my god, like the exact layout that exists in my mind is what it was in the show, and I was like, God, it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, in the first episode, it was really cool because on the way to Kaer Morhen, they get sidetracked because they come across this town, they want to hole up for the night. The town is deserted, and he's like, "Well, I've got a friend that lives nearby, Nivellen. We'll go see him." Turns out his old friend's been turned and cursed into a giant man-like warthog. And this was really cool because it was the actor that played Tormund on Game of Thrones.
I thought I recognized him.
Yeah, that was the guy that played Tormund, who was one of the best characters in Game of Thrones.
For sure, yeah.
But yeah, really cool. What happened here? You get a lot of exposition.
It's one of my favorite things about this show is that they really take their time to flesh out even minor characters. Because I wouldn't call this guy a major character. He's in an episode, and it's really to just kind of, in a way, it felt like it was designed to get the audience back into, or at least in a mindset of where the show's going to go. In like a Geralt and Ciri are going to go through some shit this fucking episode. Get fucking ready.
Oh yeah. So Geralt is trying to find out the truth of what happened to Nivellen. He's like, "Why are you a beast now?" And he's like, "Oh, it's because I raided a temple and desecrated it, and this is my curse." And he keeps hearing noises. He's like, "What is that?" He's like, "Oh, it's a cat. Cats don't like witchers, so of course it's staying away from you. I'm cursed to be alone." And then they start to play a drinking game, throwing knives, and if they miss the target, then they have to drink and answer a question truthfully. And for some reason, Geralt keeps missing everything, and the villain is bullseyeing everything. Turns out he was cheating because Geralt pulls a knife out of his boot, boom, throws it, bullseye. He's like, all right, now tell me the truth. What's going on here? Come to find out, he has been hiding a Bruxa, which is a vampire, and is in love with the Bruxa and lets it feed on him at night in order to quell her hunger. And as a result, he's not alone and he's fallen in love with her. But it ends badly because Geralt ends up killing the Bruxa. By doing so, it does lift the curse, to which he reveals that I didn't defile the temple, I raped the priestess of the temple.
It's really a fucking like sad story. Like,
oh, it really is.
That was the thing that I think clicked with me so much. I was like, damn, that was like probably one of the sadder stories, that short stories, I guess you could say, that The Witcher's told so far. But I mean, the game is full of that shit too. Like, you'll come across people in the game that you're just like, boy, this story fucking sucks. I mean, it's good, but hurts your heart a little bit.
Well, I've actually started replaying through Witcher 3 because I adore that fucking game. And one of the characters that you come across, because it starts out, you're on the hunt for Ciri. You haven't seen her in some time, and she's on the run from the Wild Hunt. And one of the characters you come across is a baron who had his men had happened upon Ciri when she was injured, and they gave her shelter and food and nursed her back to health, and spent some time with her before she departed. In exchange for the information of what happened to Ciri and where she's headed, he asked Geralt to find his family. His family has vanished. His wife and daughter had vanished. Turns out his wife had a miscarriage, and his daughter and wife had run away. Well, the miscarriage, the baby, it was just lying there on the bed, and his wife was nowhere to be found. He didn't even name the baby. He just put it in a shallow, unmarked grave, and it became a botchling, which is basically a possessed demonic infant,
right?
With multiple rows of teeth that will rip out the jugular of anybody that picks it up. Still got the umbilical cord wrapped around its body and everything as it crawls. It's fucked up.
I remember that mission.
Yeah. So, and you come to find out it's like he was an abusive husband and father, emotionally abusive and neglectful to his daughter, but verbally and physically abusive to his wife, and vice versa. And it was just a really sad story, but it was like, okay, he's not the only one to blame, but it's just, there's tons of sad stories like that in both the books and the games. And I started reading the books as well. And the first two books are actually collections of short stories.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the very first short story that was written was episode 3 of season 1. The Betrayer Moon. That's where Geralt goes and finds the Striga for King Foltest, and it turns out it's his sister's child, which was also his child. The king that was in love with his sister, and they had a child together.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and he had to cure the Striga. Yeah, that was the first short story. But this one, the second season is based on A Grain of Truth from The Last Wish, and the first book, the first actual novel, Blood of Elves, and the very beginning of Time of Contempt, which is the second book. So that's what this covers. There are differences in the books and the games, because in the second episode, was the biggest deviation from the books and the games, and it's the one that upset me. Is my only complaint about the season as a whole. Is they all go back to Kaer Morhen, and the last to arrive is Eskel. Eskel's characterized by scars on his face from a battle when he was younger. Eskel had been infected by a Leshy or a Leshen, which is a Slavic mythological creature, and they are terrifying in the games. Basically, Eskel dies.
Mm-hmm.
Eskel's a big character in the books and in the games.
What's really funny and interesting to me, back when season 1 was out, and I was like trying to replay 2 or 3, they made it very clear, like the entire not Witcher community, but the Witcher, basically the company that owns all the, like, owns the name and licenses it out and whatnot to that the continuity of the books, the continuity of the games, and the continuity of the show are all different continuities.
Exactly. You're going to have a lot of similarities, but you're going to have differences, and this is the one big difference. Eskel's not a major character by any stretch of the imagination. The main characters are Geralt, Ciri, and Yennefer. That's the 3 main characters, but Eskel was a very strong supporting character and like a brother to Geralt. So I consider that to be a big change. But, you get to see the Witchers wintering at Kaer Morhen. And some of the Witchers are upset at Geralt for bringing Ciri there and blame him for the death of Eskel.
Yeah. Which I thought was so weird, because, like, it seemed odd to me that the Witchers would blame him only in the context that it was very clear that this was Eskel's fault. Because not even, like Vesemir didn't blame him. Vesemir was like, you had to do what you had to do. And it fucking sucks. I personally thought it was very strange that they were blaming her, but it also made sense because 2 factors. As far as I know, there's never been a female Witcher.
There's not. In fact, it's always been prohibited for females to become Witchers.
That's what, okay, so.
And as a matter of fact, side note, Vesemir, the guy that got to play Vesemir, fucking perfect. You look at the Vesemir from the character models of the video games, and then, of course, Vesemir from the description of the books. The guy that they've cast as Vesemir nails the part.
Yeah, he's fantastic. One thing about this whole show, before we get on with what happens next, one thing about this whole show that kind of drove me nuts a little bit was it felt like the other Witchers were bad at being Witchers. Like, I don't know if it was to make Geralt look fucking even bigger and badass, but my God, like...
Well, he is the best of the bunch.
Yeah, I get that, but they're still supposed to be Witchers. Like, they're not... It felt like they were easily taken care of. Whether they were killed or not, it felt like they were taken care of way too easily. But
well, if you go back and watch season 1, Geralt gets into some pickles on his own.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that Witchers don't get into pickles, but it just kind of felt like a little bit that they were just bad at being Witchers.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's intentional or not, but
I get what you're saying. Now, while this is going on, he's taken Ciri to Kaer Morhen and begins to train her. And the other Witchers, they're like, "Oh, you want to be one of us?" Lambert especially gives her a hard time at first. And they've nailed Lambert's personality. But Lambert's a good character. I really like him a lot.
Yeah,
But
yeah. No, he was a lot of fun. The other one that, or the scene where him and the other Witcher take Siri to that,
Cohen,
like, okay,
that's
yeah,
Cohen.
I was like, you're
Cohen's
gonna remember
also
names
from the
better than
book.
anybody.
Yeah, that's Cohen. He's also from the books and briefly in the games. But in the books and the games, he's from the school of the Griffin. He's not a school of the Wolf Witcher from Kaer Morhen. He just happens to be there and hangs out because he and Lambert are really close friends. And, you know, he's friends with all the other Witchers and everything, but he and Lambert are super close. But yeah,
Yeah,
when you take her to the
but like,
gauntlet thing that you were talking about,
yeah, like I thought it was so badass that she was like, I'm not fucking giving up until I get through this goddamn thing.
mm-hmm.
And then Geralt comes back and he watches her get through the whole thing, but then gets a fucking yeeted off at the very end. And I was like, what is he gonna say to her? And it was like, almost.
So close.
Yeah, so close. I was like, yeah, that was oh dude. That was an awesome scene. But
I love her determination.
yeah.
How she wants to be just like Geralt. And her reason she gives it later in the season. I don't remember what episode it is, but the reason that she wants to be like him is because it's always said that Witchers have no feelings, they have no emotions, which is entirely untrue. It's just what people think. And through their long lifespans and their mutations that they undergo and their training they undergo, they learn how to control their feelings, but they still experience their feelings.
Yeah.
And that's what he kind of explains to her. He's like, I still feel, and it's made clear that he does feel. And, he feels anger, he feels sadness, he feels joy, he feels love. He's growing to love Ciri as a daughter. In
I
this
know it
season.
happens. I know it happens later in the show, but when he meets back up with Yaskier, I was like, and the small little interaction they had. Oh man, I was so happy to see that. I was like, yay!
Oh, absolutely. And that was great. And before we get to Yaskier, he doesn't get introduced until about 4 episodes in. Um, but it, Yennefer, she's been kidnapped. Uh, you thought it was originally by the Nilfgaardians, but she, uh, she and Fringilla actually get taken captive by Filavandrel, the former king of the elves. And they're taken to Filavandrel, and they meet Francesca Findabair, who is basically the now leader and wife of Filavandrel, and she's now the acting leader. She's like, you had your chance, you failed us, now I'm leading. But Yennefer, Fringilla, and Francesca, who is an elven mage, they're all experiencing very similar visions. And they tell each other about these visions, and they take a passageway that takes them to a hut. And they have visions individually from who they refer to as the Deathless Mother. She takes various forms in presenting herself as to each one as someone important to them or other versions of themselves and make promises to them. Yennefer is discovered, though, she doesn't have access to her magic. She can't create or control any magic. So for the bulk of the season, she has no magic, and you see her having to struggle with this. And the Deathless
By
Mother,
bulk of the season, you mean all of it?
she gets it back in the last episode. But
uh,
but the Deathless Mother, who they refer to as God, what was her name?
you're
She's
asking me?
basically she's basically based on Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
But Volith Mir is her actual name. She's based on Baba Yaga. She promises Yennefer, she's like, hey, you bring this child here and shows her a vision of Siri to the black door that should never be opened outside of Sintra, you'll have your magic back. You can have your magic back. You can have your power. So that's what Yennefer's after. Uh, she goes back to Aretusa. She confronts the Brotherhood, and they're like, well, where's your allegiance lie? Does it lie with us, or does it lie with Nilfgaard? Because you've been gone for over a month. And they've taken Cahir, the Black Knight, the villain in the first season that Ciri was on the run from. They've captured him. And they're like, you want to kill this guy to prove your allegiance to the sorcerers and the sorceresses? And Yennefer's like, I don't owe allegiance to anybody, and he shouldn't have to die for this. And they escape. So now they're on the run. And that's how, when they're on the run, they come into Oxenfurt, which is one of the major cities on the coast. They run into some elves that are trying to escape underground, because basically Redania is going around exterminating all the elves.
I was going to say, this show does a lot more than season 1 of the racial tensions of. By the way, something I've never looked up is the name of the world that this exists in.
Well, it's just, the land is just called the continent.
Okay. Not like, Westeros or something to that effect, or Middle Earth.
Yeah, they just call it the continent. And there's the north and their south, and the Skellige Islands. Those are the main things. And in the north, you had Sintra. Sintra was the jewel of the north, and then it fell to Nilfgaard. Nilfgaard was from the south. And you have Redania and Temeria and other countries like that. And, everybody is at each other's throat, and everybody's at war. And you get to see, in Redania, you get introduced to the character of Sigmund Dijkstra and Philippa Alhart. They're spy masters and court mages to King Vizimir. And they're, making their plans to plot. There's just so much going on. It's wonderful. But Yennefer and Cahir, they find, this like underground railroad for elves, and they're being helped by a mysterious figure called the Sandpiper, and it turns out it's Jaskier. He's smuggling elves to Sintra where they can be free, and that's how Jaskier gets introduced to the show. And he's bitter. He's singing a song about, how the butcher wounded him, and he's singing "Burn, Butcher, Burn." That was a cool song. But yeah, there's just so much going on. And that's only the first half of the season, and it's just a little breakdown of what's going on. Yeah. There's so much that happens in the second half. I don't want to give away a lot of plot details or anything.
One of my absolute favorite things about this show is it feels like it doesn't hold back from what it needs to show or how it's being shown. It really kind of goes full bore into things. And like I was trying to say a second ago, because I immediately was going to be like, I was going to say the racial tensions between humans and elves. I really enjoyed that. Because there's a lot of stuff that happens within those cities that I thought was such a weird, or not weird, but like interesting difference in dichotomy with what is going on and how the different races look at the other races, but they're not that far apart. Like, one of the things about this show, and I know the games kind of does a good job, but they're close enough to make it in a day on a horse. Like, they're not that far apart. And being not that far apart, again, I could be wrong, but it feels like they're not that far apart. But the racial tensions still being as strong as they are, and like the end of this show's implications for what's going to happen in season 3, I'm very excited for season 3. And that's the other thing I have to admit. The other thing that kind of worries me a little bit Netflix is notorious for canceling a show regardless of its viewership, because if a show doesn't bring in a brand new swath of viewers, they will consider canceling it. And the thing about Witcher season 2 so far, it has not brought in that many people, like, back to the service. Most of the people that have it are watching it. It's getting tons of views, but the number of new subscribers or new or returning subscribers is not that high.
And Netflix really can just fuck off with that practice.
I agree,
because it's a horrible practice.
Yeah, but the worry is definitely there.
Is legit, yeah. But I know the showrunners have a 7-season plan, and I mean, the show's a mega hit. It absolutely is.
Absolutely,
with current subscribers, but that whole, well, is it bringing in new subscribers?
What I'm hoping, here's what I'm hoping, is that The Witcher has kind of hit Stranger Things level of popularity to the point where it won't matter. Like, they'll just keep letting them make the show forever, regardless of new subscribers.
That's what I'm hoping, and unfortunately, some other things may take a hit as a result. But I mean, this is one of my favorite properties. Obviously,
yeah. Like I said last week, you went full ham into, like, the books, the games, the fucking that D&D set, or tabletop RPG, I should say.
Yeah, I can't wait till that comes out, just for the sheer amount of miniatures alone.
They're all non-colored, so you get to paint them, right?
Yeah, they're all unpainted.
So yeah, you're gonna have fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, before we get into our final thoughts and a grade, R.I.P. Should I say it?
No,
Okay.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Trust me, your reaction to that was very similar to Misty's reaction. And my reaction was,
Dude, I'm not okay with it.
Well, I'll tell you something off air.
Okay. But yeah, we should. Yeah. Just FYI, everybody, like, other things we're reviewing today are going to get spoiled, like Spider-Man and Hawkeye. But there's reasons behind that. But that's also kind of why we started with Witcher, because it's newer. Not everyone's going to be able to get through 8 episodes in a week like we did. So, but the other things are.
I watched it. I binged the entire season Saturday day, morning, afternoon, and evening. Misty and I watched the entire season, and then I watched part of it again Sunday night, part of it again Monday day, and then finish it up again Tuesday. I was just like, oh, it's so good. It's so good. If anybody's wondering what kind of grade I'm going to give to it, it's a fucking plus. It absolutely is wonderful. The music is fantastic. The cinematography is gorgeous. Shots look even better this season than they did in the first season. You can tell that the production values increased. It sucks because of COVID. It took 2 years for the season to get done when, because they had production delays because of COVID. And then, of course, Henry Cavill actually was injured on set because he does all his own stunt work.
Yeah.
He is adamant about doing all the action.
Yeah, he said it was either in an interview or something to that effect that he was like that season 2 almost ruined his action movie career.
Yes, he did say the hamstring injury that he received in season 2 almost ruined his ability to do action and stunts. So that's why, it took some time for him to get back to health. But I'm glad that he did, and I'm glad he's able to do what he does, because motherfucker was born to play Geralt. He just was.
The thing about, like, Henry Cavill is he is like I've said this before, he is a massive nerd. Like,
oh, I know, and I love it.
Like, the dude had a stream a while back where he built his own PC, which is something I can't even do. So the dude, like, man, if he started a fucking, like, a D&D stream, that shit would be oh my god, people would flock to it. But one of the things is apparently he said he wants to do a show based off of Red Dead Redemption and be in it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, dude. So
As long as he can still, as long as he can still play Geralt and give us this. Oh yeah, if he could become either Arthur Morgan or John Marston, either one from Red Dead. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I see him more of as John Marston than Arthur Morgan, but still.
Yeah. I'm also going to give it an A+. I think the show is fucking fantastic. It did the job of me playing a video game while watching it. And I've been trying to get through Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, or what the fuck it is. And a game called Loop Hero, which you don't have to pay 100% attention to Loop Hero. It's great. This game was making me have to pause those to watch. Like, that's not a common thing for me. So, when it happens, when it happens, you know this shit's good.
Absolutely. When something grabs your attention like that.
Yeah. So, all right. Well,
we say absolutely watch The Witcher.
Oh yeah.
And there's tons. I was telling Greg right before we started recording, there's a lot of supplemental material out there that they've put out in the past couple of weeks. Like, there's 5 and 6 minute breakdowns of each episode from season 1, just giving you a recap and talking a little bit about the influences and origins of the story, where they pull it from, and where each character is in their mindset and how they want to proceed with things. And then they've got like another little mini documentary, like a 15-minute breakdown of the characters overall, like who's who and how do they relate to this person and that person and this kingdom and that kingdom. And there's
that leads me to believe that they're not going to cancel it after season 2, regardless of the returning and or new viewership.
Yeah. And then there's the animated prequel, the Nightmare of the Wolf, that focuses on Vesemir.
They're just fantastic.
And then at the end of episode 8, I don't know if you saw it or not, but they announced a prequel.
Yes.
For the Witcher series.
Blood Origin,
yeah.
Yeah. With Michelle Yeoh with a fucking sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in. Like, that's all you had to tell me was Michelle Yeoh, Witcher prequel, she has a sword, and I'm already going to watch it. Like, you didn't have to show me a trailer, but thank you for it, I guess. Speaking of Michelle, go ahead.
That just, it gives me hope and more peace of mind that they're not going to cancel it.
Yeah.
It lets me breathe easier knowing that they're all in like that.
I mean, they wouldn't be if season 1 wasn't such a hit.
Oh, absolutely.
So side note, speaking of Michelle Yeoh, she's in a movie coming out next year, specifically in March, called Everything Everywhere All at Once. It looks amazing. If you haven't seen the trailer for it, I highly recommend it. The synopsis is: an aging Chinese immigrant is swept up in an insane adventure where she alone can save the world by exploring other universes, connecting with lives she could have led. It looks amazing. It looks hilarious, by the way. Like, it's straight up funny. But yeah, sorry.
I'll have to watch that trailer.
The other trailer that I would recommend for people to watch, by the way, that I'm super excited about is hold on. It stars Nick Cage playing Nick Cage. So that immediately should tell you it's going to be good. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Oh, that doesn't sound pompous and arrogant at all.
Oh, but here's the point of the movie is he's making fun of himself.
Oh, absolutely. I know.
So
he's a fun guy.
So the synopsis,
he can poke fun at himself.
Oh yeah. The synopsis is: a cash-strapped Nicolas Cage agrees to make a paid appearance at a billionaire superfan's birthday party, but is really an informant for the CIA, since the billionaire fan is a drug kingpin and gets cast in a Tarantino movie. Pedro Pascal plays a major role. Neil Patrick Harris plays a major role. Tiffany Haddish plays a major role. Like, dude, you have to watch that trailer. It's so fucking funny. But yeah,
I'll
2
check
movies
it
that I'm
out.
very excited about coming out next year. That one comes out the day after my birthday, actually.
Oh, nice.
All right, let's move on to South Park post-COVID, the return of COVID. So yeah, this is part 2 of what happened a month ago, where there were, at the end of season 21, Viacom had basically made an agreement with South Park that they were going to do like 7 more seasons plus like 20 something fucking specials. It was like a $300 million deal or some shit like that. I could be wrong about that number, but it was an insane amount of money. And this was like this is the 4th special technically, because the other 2, which we watched and reviewed last week, the week before, I don't remember when we watched it, but
The week of Thanksgiving, I think.
Okay, yeah, right after it came out. Duh. But yeah, to kind of recap the story, COVID hits South Park. A lot of things go down, but one of the major aspects is the boys kind of fall apart in their friendship. And so part 1 basically picks up 40 years in the future. The boys are no longer friends. They have to come back to South Park because Kenny has died, which is a joke in itself, which I love. But he has left behind clues on how to fix COVID. Or at least that's what people assume. It turns out that he wasn't trying to fix COVID. He was trying to fix their friendship. And he's mad at them for, not fixing it when they were younger. And one of the major things from the part 1 of when they're adults is they find out that Kenny was working with somebody really closely when it came to all of this, named Victor Chaus.
Victor Chaus.
When you look at the name tag in the insane asylum, it actually says Victor Chaos. Now, if you don't know or don't remember, back when Cartman was the Coon, which I have a cosplay of, oddly enough, I think all the boys also had superhero. Like Kyle was the Kite.
Yeah, they all had superhero identities, but
Yeah,
Butters
there's a whole game based on it.
Didn't Butters alter ego of Professor Chaos come before the Coon?
Maybe.
I think it did.
Hold on, I'm going to look that up real quick. But yeah, that's why it's Victor Chaos, not Chaos, because it's his alter ego of Professor Chaos. Stan and Kyle show up at the insane asylum to talk to him, and he kind of looks like a used car salesman. That's how his look looks. But he starts talking to them about like making money and that they can invest in something. And he says that what they can invest in is NFTs, to which the guard immediately rushes in and detains him and kicks them out, because that is apparent. Like the whole joke in the entire show is that when COVID had first happened, Butter's overprotective parents kept him in his room.
Yeah, they grounded him. Like even after the stay-at-home order was lifted, they kept him grounded in his room, and they went to the movies one night and never came home, and he stayed grounded in his room for over 16 years.
Yeah, and that's where he learned about NFTs and all that kind of stuff. So, but with his knowledge of NFTs and trying to get people to purchase NFTs, he has created chaos. And that that joke is so fucking good. Like, it's so goddamn funny. You take a character that's arguably one of the dumber characters in the show and then make him all about one of the dumbest things on the planet right now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't recommend getting into fucking NFTs. It is a money sink. But in that regard, The rest of the episode is about, so Professor Chaos showed up in season 6, whereas the Coon showed up in season 13.
Yeah. I thought Professor Chaos came way earlier.
Way earlier. But yeah, so that's what I loved about that, was his name was Victor Chaos and not Butterstaunch or whatever the fuck their last name was.
Stotch.
That's right, because it's almost butterscotch. That's right. But yeah, the rest of the episode is basically about Cartman doesn't want to reverse time. So they're trying to figure out how to go back in time. They're trying to figure out how to get Kenny's time machine to work. And they know that they need tinfoil, which is hard to find because of the shipping containers that are still out there.
God damn it, I hate the fucking future. Future fucking sucks.
Oh my god, that fucking joke the entire episode is so good. Yeah, Cartman's entire bit is that he doesn't want to lose his family. He doesn't want to reverse time because he might lose what the future held for him, which was good. And there's a great fucking joke where he's holed up in the church with Scott Malkison, and he has his family in the attic, and he goes up there and he's
like, somebody's here. Keep quiet. Daddy, I'm writing a diary to keep...
It's such a good joke.
I knew that's what you were going to refer to.
Oh, it's so funny.
Oh my god. Oh god.
But essentially Cartman's trying to sabotage the whole thing because like he doesn't want to lose his family. He doesn't want to possibly, and what's interesting about his entire plight is that it makes sense. Like, if they change the past, then the future's also going to be changed, and he doesn't want to lose that. But I think in the same regard, like, how would you know, right? So long story short, they do figure it out. They get the tinfoil. They go back in time, and they use a new strain of Randy's Integrity Farms weed that basically makes people like super apologetic. So everyone starts apologizing and working together and getting rid of COVID. And so Shelly and Shelly doesn't die in the barn, and
Sharon doesn't kill herself.
And Stan becomes like what was Stan? Like Stan was like an airline pilot or something like that?
I'm not sure. Maybe he was in the military or
I couldn't tell by his outfit, yeah. But he was successful in whatever he was doing. Which also Kyle was very successful in what he was doing.
And Kyle had a family. He wasn't alone, and he was happy.
And Kenny was still alive and
also still wealthy and still a scientist.
Yep. And then they're standing in the Applebee's, Denny's Plus Max, and because it's the future.
Future fucking sucks, dude.
And they're talking about Cartman, and there's a great shot where because Butter's parents got high, they did not go to the movies and leave him in his room for 16 years, so he never learned about NFTs. And there's a great joke where he's now working at that Applebee's, Denny's Max Plus, and he says to Kyle and Stan, yeah, I like actually doing a real job for real money.
Yeah.
So, but they look out the window, and Cartman is just this like disheveled homeless guy cussing them out on the side of the street. Like he did not win in this future. And I was like, this is fucking perfect. What also makes this perfect is that it fixed the breakup that they had when they were younger.
Yeah, it just kind of sets it back to the status quo of them being 4 best friends.
Yeah. So what future projects we'll get from South Park? I think it hit a reset button essentially. So we're gonna get a whole new line of content, and I'm very excited to see what happens next. But
Yeah, because one of the things that resulted out of this is Mr. Garrison has Mr. Hat back.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. He, I guess he was still, president at one point,
Well,
regardless.
yeah, and because he's no longer president now, because remember in the QAnon special, he came back, and that's when he had Mr. Service.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
And they
yeah,
transformed
essentially,
Mr. Service into Mr. Hat.
yeah, all of that's canon. All of that
Yep.
is still canon. What's not canon is essentially the 40 years after their breakup, because they did, so that's it. That's the only difference, is they didn't break up. Really, if you really break it down like that. But everything that happened in the first and second COVID special happened. So, but yeah, dude, fucking, it's so funny. Like, the whole thing is so goddamn funny, and I highly recommend it. I mean, here's the thing: is it's not a lot of content to absorb if you're a fan of South Park or were a fan of South Park. One of my favorite things about South Park and how Matt and Trey write it is, and the writers in general, is they adapt to the times. They adapt to the way comedy is told nowadays. I do feel like there's a little bit of a like anti-cancel culture attitude with everything that Jimmy does in the episodes. Like, he's in the future, he's a comedian for a late night show, like, Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon. That's the joke. And
But it's
he has
late night with Jimmy Vollmer.
He has to tell very PC style jokes. And
what's the difference between a lesbian and a Christian man? Absolutely nothing, and they deserve the same level of respect.
Which essentially are anti-jokes, which makes me laugh by themselves.
Yeah.
But that entire bit definitely feels like they're just angry at how comedy is perceived nowadays. And I'm like, that's not how that works. That's not what's happening. Because from my perspective, you can still tell those jokes. And for them to kind of be like, well, now you can't, is very obnoxious. So that was like the only thing that I was kind of like about the entire like thing, but the rest of it is fucking hilarious. Also, Clyde not getting the vaccine and then going back in time and telling his younger self to never get the vaccine is fucking funny.
Yeah. He's like, is that dad still keep a gun in the safe? Yeah. Is dad home right now? No. Don't you ever get vaccinated, you'll get titties on your head. And that's when the little cuties showed up.
Oh my god, I forgot about the little cuties, and then they showed up, and I'm like, God, it's so funny. That was by the way.
Fuck yeah, I want to join you guys.
Another great running gag throughout both part 1 and part 2 is there are 3 things that they want to go back in time and fix. They want to fix that, we get over COVID. They want to fix their friendship, or something else worldwide. But the third thing that they want to
stop Space Jam 2 from ever happening.
That was the third thing, yeah. Because the running gag through the entire episodes. I mean, I call it one episode, but it's the part 1 and 2 is that COVID and Space Jam 2 was what really caused everything to go to hell. So that joke is so funny. But yeah, well, let's wrap this one up and we can move on to the next thing. I'm gonna give the part 2 an A+. It's genuinely one of the most funny things I've watched in a long time. If you're a fan of you were a fan of South Park, this might reinvigorate you to get back into it. Because I know that I'm going to continue watching it from here on forward, because I think that South Park is brilliant. Always have, always will, since I was 14. So, and if you think that the comedy or the comedy style is still like it was fucking 10 years ago, it's not. It's adapted, it's changed, it's way more modern.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, fucking absolutely great, Maya.
Oh, I agree. Wonderful, brilliant, hilarious. Kept me laughing the entire time. Misty, the parts that she would walk in on or happen to catch, she was laughing her ass off at things. She was working actually when I was watching it, so she didn't pay super close attention. But she would look over and see something happen, and she's like, "Oh, that's some Blade Runner shit." Talking about all the Blade Runner illusions. She really busted out laughing when Clyde went back in time and the Terminator music started playing. He was just strolling down the street. Things like that.
The other Blade Runner reference is the how the old folks home looks.
Yeah. Well, that's what she was talking about when she saw it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, absolutely an A+. It was wonderful. Parts 1 and 2 both were great. I wish we knew what the fuck it was people were wearing on their heads.
Yeah, they never explain it. It's just a future thing because the future sucks.
Future fucking sucks, dude. All right.
Also, the Alexa bits. I'm sorry, I forgot about those. The
Alexa
bits are so fucking funny. But
absolutely.
You have to watch it. You just have to watch it. It's worth your time. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is the Hawkeye Finale, episode 6 of Hawkeye. So, again, we're spoiling it. FYI, it's the fucking finale of a whole show. I don't know how we couldn't.
Especially with the return of fucking Kingpin.
Which, oh my God, like... So we'll talk about it in the next part, but I'm so fucking happy that both those actors have come back.
Oh, absolutely.
Vincent D'Onofrio's fucking Kingpin is terrifying, and I absolutely fucking love about it. If you watch the Hawkeye, or not Hawkeye, but if you watch the Daredevil show that was on Netflix, all 3 seasons, you know how big of a terrifying force Kingpin can be. And this is something that Maya have known from reading the comics and whatnot. Like, Kingpin is one of my favorite villains because Kingpin is just a guy that wants to run Manhattan straight the fuck up. And because of that, any hero that exists in Manhattan deals with him. It's the first thing you do in the fucking Spider-Man PS4 video game. There's a video game of Punisher where you have to take out Kingpin. Is he the final boss? No, he's not. But he is a boss, and it was an awesome fucking level. Tons of games where you have to take him out, and just like fucking love the Kingpin. Absolutely adore the Kingpin as a villain. I mean, he's obviously a bad guy, so there's that. But and Vincent D'Onofrio had did such an excellent job as him in Daredevil that the second we see him in the first scene of this finale, and Vincent D'Onofrio did not forget how to play Kingpin.
Oh no, it's just like, oh, let me get this fucking shirt out of the dryer. Oh, it's so warm and comfortable and feels right. It's that level of just nailed it.
Absolutely.
His inflection that he gives, his mannerisms, his slow manner of speaking, his ruthlessness, it belies his ferocity. He sounds gentle and almost, and he's not.
No.
Oh God.
The second that Kate's mom, I can't remember her name. The second Eleanor. The second that she tells Wilson that she's done, that she's not going to work for him anymore, that she's not going to that she's just out. He loses it in this quiet rage. That quiet rage fucking sends a goddamn chill up my spine every time. That quiet rage is so fucking good for a show, but my God, am I like, oh no, oh, you made Kingpin mad. That's not good. So there was, and then Maya does the same thing later, where she's just like, I'm out too, and he's like, oh, he's like ready to fucking rage, but he's like, it's that fucking, again, it's that quiet rage that you're just like, I have to go, like, not, it's just so good. It's so fucking well done. But, the whole show is not about Kingpin. It is, and I appreciate this, it's still about Kate and Clint. It's still about Clint's redemption. It's still about his, fixing the things of his past and realizing that what he did during the blip was wrong. It's still about Kate coming to terms with what is to be a superhero. But it also wraps up everything that was started in this episode. It wraps up Ronan. It wraps up Yelena's bit. There's so much that happens in this episode that I just absolutely fucking loved. And I'm so glad that Maya and Elena didn't just take a back seat to Kate and Clint. I'm glad that Yelena and Maya got resolution in a way. Not for Maya per se. She's still got some shit to deal with, which I'm sure we'll see in the show Echo.
Oh, absolutely. A friend of mine said, do you think that so-and-so's gone now after being brought back? And I'm like, no.
No. It's the fucking no. And we can say it again. We warn spoilers.
They allude to when she comes face to face with the Kingpin after, he had a fight with Kate 1-on-1, and he got hit by a car through a wall, and then she blew him up, and he's staggering down the street. I mean, he is super fucking tough. Maya pulls a gun on him and holds it to his face.
I would argue that like the shit that Kingpin went through in this episode was more comic book Kingpin than the Daredevil show.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But I don't think she shot him. It doesn't. If you're going to kill somebody off, you show their death.
100%.
If you want to leave it ambiguous and make people think, oh, did they kill him off? You don't show anything. You just, there's a gunshot, there's a sound.
Well, she shot. I was there before he got hit by the car. She shot him in like the chest with a goddamn arrow, and he just
ripped it out.
He didn't even rip it out. He broke it off.
Yeah.
But in that regard, like, she beats the shit out of him. I mean, he beat the shit out of her too. Like, it was that fight. Like, I was like, damn, she stood toe to toe with fucking Kingpin and is living to tell the tale. Hot goddamn.
He ragdolled the shit out of her, but yeah.
Punched her in the gut, and then she flew across the room anime style. Like, Kate is not only a fucking extremely tough, but went through that and was like, I'm gonna still get up and fucking take care of you. And I'm like, all right, Kate, you're officially the superhero. Well done. But I agree, you're not gonna have his death off screen. And so I think like what likely happened was he took the shot in his shoulder or something to that effect, or like just moved out of the way slightly and then like hit her hella hard into the wall and stole the car. That's what I'm going to assume happened.
Or she just fired the gun straight up in the air and just walked away.
That could be it too, yeah. That's very possible as well. Regardless, there's no way they're not bringing him back.
No, you don't bring back a character of that magnitude and an actor of that quality for one fucking episode. You just don't.
It's not a cameo role. It's also the Kingpin we're talking about. That dude never fucking dies. Jesus Christ. No matter how much shit you throw at him, he's always coming back. He gets arrested like all the time too, and then just walks. Because that was my dad's question, was like, how does a character like Kingpin just get to constantly exist in the MCU? He asked the comics, and I said, on the comics, he does everything so well that he just never gets arrested. Or if he does get arrested, they don't have enough evidence to hold him. So he usually walks. Not to mention, a lot of fucking under the table dealings with law enforcement and judges and shit like that. So Kingpin walks all the time because nobody wants to stop him, technically. So, or he does spend jail time, but he's still like, he's a mob boss, so he still is in control of what's happening, even in jail. I could go on and on. I love Kingpin so much, but yeah. So one of the other things about this episode that was fucking stupid fun was everything with Kate and Yelena.
Yeah.
Hilarious, action packed. Kate standing toe to toe with a Black Widow, like,
and then complimenting each other on the moves they did on each other. It's like,
yeah,
it was very nice. I like that. It's like, oh, thanks.
like
the whole elevator thing, it's like,
yeah,
don't do it. Don't do it, Kate Bishop.
I know that we're probably not going to get it, but I would absolutely watch an entire series where Kate and Elena are taking care of something.
Oh yeah, I'd watch it all day.
But I know we're not going to get it because it's very unlikely that Yelena will show back up to team up with anybody, other than maybe the Dark Avengers or whatever the fuck they're going to be called, the Thunderbolts, whatever Val's team. And that was another thing. I was really surprised we didn't see Val in the end of the show. I thought we were going to get an after credit scene with her. And then
the after credits scene was apparently the whole musical bit that they filmed,
which I appreciate. I genuinely.
Oh, I knew you would love that. I was sitting there thinking, yep, Greg was happy as a pig in shit when this aired.
100%. That my dad's sitting there watching it. And he's like, you really like this stuff? And I'm like, it's hilarious. How is it not hilarious? And he goes, well, that'd be the only reason I watch it is because it's funny. And I'm like, is there another way to watch this? Are you legitimately going, this is really good content? Like, it was just straight up fucking funny. But I'm trying to think of what else happened. Like Clint.
Well, they go to the holiday party, the Christmas Eve party,
right?
Because they want to confront and take down her mother. And the tracksuits are converging on them. Maya's converging on them. Yelena's converging on them. And, all this is at the orders of the Kingpin. It's like the Ronin's been flying around in New York City for too long. He's going down. Eleanor Bishop doesn't walk away from me. She's going down. Clint Barton is going down. He's just like, this is my city. It's time people were reminded it's my city.
Yeah, because one of the first things we see in the show is that he's not well appreciated when it comes to the other Avengers. Like, even the musical number kind of cements that for him. He, walking through Central Park, not Central Park, but Times Square with Kate, and that kid yells. I don't remember yelling Hawkeye, but he yelled something, and Clint turns around and they run to a Black Widow and Captain America in costume. I think it was.
May have been Ant-Man.
May have been. I'm drawing a blank, but it wasn't. It wasn't a Hawkeye. That's what I remember the most. And he sheds that and says, in a way, being a hero isn't about the recognition. It's about doing the right thing. And Kate learns that too. Kate understands that by the end of this episode by doing what she's doing. And it was just really fucking good. Like, the whole thing, everyone got, in a way, the resolution that they deserved, or the spark that they needed for their own fucking show, Maya. We got more of the LARPers, which I appreciate.
Yeah, they were acting as, inside agents, the waiters at this fucking party. And they all had earpieces, and they're, being eyes for Clint. And we got to see Jack be the swordsman.
Oh, which was dope. Which was
That
really
was
fucking
a
cool.
lot of fun. He was so much fun, and he was. You could tell that he genuinely had fun doing that role.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I hope we get to see Jack again because not only is that a fun character, but he is a character in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's another thing. Speaking of Jack, like Kate was completely convinced that Jack was the bad guy in this entire story, but it was really her mom.
Yeah, he was innocent of everything. He genuinely was a charming guy.
Yep. And
I love the little interaction he had with the fucking 10-year-old or whatever age kid that
yeah, oh
was.
my
It was
god.
like, my daddy said, I was getting your wine collection. He's like, you remember when you pissed your pants? Everybody does. Everybody.
Well, that's one of my favorite things about Marvel, and something I've kind of talked about quite a bit about telling superhero stories is, we're dealing with a world where superheroes exist. And not just superheroes in the sense of superpowers, but like people who have very unique skills that they use, like in this show with Hawkeye. And to take that super serious just isn't as fun. So you have to add that that levity with comedy.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it kind of still surprises me to say that Ragnarok you don't really like that much. I think you should revisit it and give it a second chance. But that's why I love Marvel right now. Like, it doesn't take itself seriously, but it does at the same time. It can like these writers can raise the fucking stakes, make them insanely high while still making you laugh, while still making you understand you're watching something silly. Just fucking enjoy it, And this episode does that. It raises the stakes. Lives are genuinely at risk. I'm convinced that some of the Tracksuit Mafia died in this fucking episode. But yeah, like having that badass action sequence between Kate and Yelena while still being very funny. I could watch this shit forever. Like, it is just that fucking fun, that good. Like, oh, they're having this quippy banter back and forth about their fighting styles, and it's hilarious. And you're like, I could continue watching this. Oh, but Yelena jumps out the fucking window to shoot Clint in the fucking face. Like, the dichotomy between the styles is so different, but just it's like that weird food combination that you hear about, and then you try it and you're like, that's too good. That's
Like
just
peanut
too
butter
delicious.
on a hamburger?
Like peanut butter on a hamburger.
You ever
Mustard
tried that?
on a potato chip.
Mustard on potato chips is badass.
I'm sure it is. Would have never tried it in my life. Like,
Really?
had I not posted that disgusting Gushers mustard picture, like, again, to clarify, chewy gummy mustard just sounds gross. That's it. Mustard on a potato chip might give a shot, but that's my point.
You like Pringles?
I do like Pringles.
Take you some Pringles, regular Pringles. Take 2 of them. Put a dot of mustard in between them. Sandwich them together. Try it out. Thank me later.
I'll let you know in the future.
Do it today.
But that's my point. That's what I love about the comedy in Marvel. It, like, we're gonna talk about Spider-Man No Way Home next, but same fucking thing. Stakes are raised, comedy. Stakes are raised, comedy. I hope that Marvel never stops doing this. I genuinely do. I think that's why Loki works so well as a show, is because it was funny. Like, outside of like, hey, we have this whole time stream thing that's fucking dangerous, but also funny. Oh, just I love it. I love it so goddamn much, and I'm happy that I get to experience this shit. But I don't know. I don't have anything else to say before final thoughts. So, anything you want to add?
No, it was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. I thought the payoff was, getting to see Kingpin back in action was the highlight for me. But oh, the reveal, the watch
Yeah,
of
yeah.
we saw that Clint's wife Laura was Mockingbird. That was a nice little nod.
Yeah. I didn't catch the initials under the bottom of the Shield logo on the back of the watch. And it wasn't until I went on Twitter that somebody was like, that says MB. I'm like, fuck. Of course it does. But yeah, like, also they full on now called Pizza Dog Lucky, which I was like, please fucking call him Lucky soon, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So, I think Kate Bishop's a great fucking character, and I'm so happy to have her in the MCU. And I can't wait for where the show Echo goes next, or where when we're gonna get that one. I don't know. Let's give our grades because we need to take a small break because I have to go to the bathroom. Maya, what did you think?
Oh well, I echo your grade. I also give it an A plus. I would give it an A plus just for the Kingpin alone. The performance we got from Vincent D'Onofrio
Oh yeah,
is just phenomenal. But everything else, was also we got all these great resolutions happening. We got the little Mockingbird nod that Clint's wife Laura was Mockingbird. We got to see him wrap this Ronin issue up and make it home on time for Christmas to be with his family on Christmas Day. And he took Kate and Lucky the pizza dog with him. And, we see her mom get arrested. We see Jack get vindicated. And we just see all these resolutions happen and great performances from everybody involved. It's a great little show. 6 episodes, hour long a piece. Or not even an hour, a full hour. About 45 to 50 minutes on average. Might be a little bit longer. I can't remember. But if you got 6 hours of time to kill, give Hawkeye a watch.
yeah,
It introduces the Kingpin officially into the MCU for Christ's sake,
yeah. Like
which is great.
yeah. It's very exciting. Like, like if you're already a fan of Marvel, I don't know how you're not watching it, but yeah, yeah, I mirror everything you say. I fucking big fan. I can't wait. I can't wait to see where it goes next.
Yeah. MCU. I remember after Endgame, everybody was like, "Well, I'm done with Marvel. There's no reason to watch it anymore."
Weird.
No. Yeah, that's if you've not been watching what they've been doing, you're doing yourself a disservice. You are absolutely doing yourself a disservice, and I am super excited for what is to come because I don't know about you, but Friday I watched one of the greatest superhero movies I've ever seen in my life, if not the best.
So this conversation is going to be interesting. We haven't done a review for a show that we've watched in the theaters. I don't think so yet. Most of the stuff that we review is straight on streaming services, which all three of the other things were. But Spider-Man: No Way Home was a theater exclusive. And hot damn, was this movie fucking insane. I don't even know where to begin on it. Like, it takes place immediately after Far From Home.
Yeah.
Like, the opening bit where it shows the Marvel logo is literally the final scene in No Way Home. I'm sorry, Far From Home, where Mysterio is revealing Spider-Man as Peter Parker, or Peter Parker as Spider-Man, one of the fucking two.
Yeah.
And it just fucking goes from there. I'm not sure what else to like say about the beginning. One of the funniest things I think was the chaos inside Aunt May's apartment.
Yeah, yeah. You know, he and MJ are on the street, and J. Jonah Jameson's fucking bombshell Spider-Man is Peter Parker, 17-year-old high school student, and he's like, "What the fuck?" And snatches her up, and they make her way back to his apartment. And in the chaos that is going on with reporters, cameramen following him, people are like yelling, "Hey, Spider-Man! Hey, Peter!" Yelling at him as he's going home. Aunt May's breaking up with Happy, and he's all just distraught and just in tears.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, it was a fling. It was fun." He's like, "But no." He's all to pieces, and here's this reveal, and then they see it on TV, and he's got all these legal troubles, and all of a sudden, boom! There's Matt fucking Murdock.
Oh my god! So before we get into that reveal, I had this really strong theory that he was going to show up as legal counsel for Peter Parker. I was like, we just got the reveal of Kingpin and Hawkeye. They've got like, and Kevin Feige just said that Charlie Cox is coming back as Daredevil. Like he said that interview with Amy Pascal. And I was like, they're going to have him in No Way Home as Peter's legal counsel. I don't know how,
Yeah.
I don't know when. So the second he shows up, I just immediately in my seat like, I was right.
Oh, dude, I have
got
never.
So
Oh, I was like, woo! But I have never been in a movie theater before where the entire audience clapped at things.
yeah, well,
Like,
no, Endgame was definitely that.
no, not even Endgame. I mean, there was cheering and stuff in Endgame, but there was not like widespread applause, like people clapping and wooing. And yeah, I've never seen that before.
Maybe my Endgame experience was different because I 100% experienced that with Endgame.
See, this is the first time I've experienced that in a movie theater. I've had people cheer and everything, but I've never had the whole clapping and cheering. And Matt Murdock coming on the screen was one of them. Him catching the brick that gets thrown through the window, and he's like, "How'd you do that?" "I'm a very good lawyer." That was just amazing.
So fucking rad.
And I was like, boom. No Way Home and Hawkeye have cemented the Netflix shows for me.
So it's
I
not
know
confirmed.
it's not confirmed. I know, but
what I'm genuinely hoping, Maya, is that because of this reveal in No Way Home, that like Sony and Marvel have this big deal with Spider-Man, that since Sony owns Netflix, but it was Netflix and Marvel that did those shows, that they just moved to Disney Plus. Because if it's revealed in the next few months that all of those shows are just on Disney Plus now and they're no longer on Netflix, then yeah, they'll be canon. But until that day,
yeah, I know, but to me and to a lot of people, this cements it. It's like it's just a matter of time before we see other people start popping up.
dude, like genuinely fucking hope that we get at least 95% of that cast into the MCU. The Danny Rand, whatever, I don't care. But everyone else,
First season of Iron Fist was awful. Finn Jones wasn't a very good actor in that. And the fight scenes really suffered and looked bad. The CGI looked bad. Season 2 was really good.
Season 2 was much better than season 1. I believe we reviewed that and 100% agree.
Mm-hmm.
But
and he works well with the others, especially Mike Coulter as Luke Cage.
Mike Coulter as Luke Cage needs to fuck like that, and I can't remember the actress's name. Is Jessica Jones.
Kristen Ritter,
thank you. Yeah, they need to come back as those characters, like 100%.
Yep.
But
yeah,
huge cameo.
Huge, absolutely mega huge.
And it
Probably
was
one
really
of the. I mean, as big as Kingpin was in Hawkeye, this was even bigger for me.
yeah, it was because it's like you said, it cemented those two who did phenomenal jobs in their respective shows coming back to play the character those characters that we love. The fact that we have 100% definitive proof that Matt Murdock is being played by Charlie Cox in the MCU is extremely exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of was hoping he showed up in the Hawkeye finale.
Yeah, that would have been cool, but
I'm also kind of glad that he didn't, because I feel like it would have taken away from
taken
from
Hawkeye. And, yeah, it would have.
So there's like that catch-22 where I'm like, I can hope, but like also not to completely spoil the end of No Way Home yet, because we're still going to spoil it. Just FYI, everybody, just FYI, we're going to spoil all of No Way Home. But it'll have been a whole week by the time this episode comes out that the movie's been out. So what are you doing with your life?
I know I want to go see it again.
I know I don't have time, but I definitely want to see it again. So when it comes to Disney Plus, 100%. But I was kind of hoping to see Spider-Man swing over Rockefeller Center in the finale, just to see him swing over it, not him help or whatever. But you get why, and we'll get there. Totally, yeah. But yeah, so Happy kind of like they after that brick scene, Happy realizes that May and Pete can't stay in their house or their apartment in Queens, so he has to move them to like his own personal little safe house,
which apartment is on Long Island.
Was it? I didn't catch that, but it makes I mean, if you're paying attention to a scene later in the movie, yeah. There was that really funny scene where Peter is talking to MJ on the phone, and Happy's still awake.
Happy's still awake, and he's laying there with his BiPAP machine on, and she's like, so you guys settled in? Yeah. He's like, Happy gave May his room. He's like, listen to this, isn't it cute? And he's like, Happy's snoring. He's like, he's snoring. He's over here in the recliner. And they're sitting there talking and everything. He's like, hey, you like her. She likes you. Wrap it up. No new ground's being broken here. I need some sleep. I need my 8 hours.
That was fucking funny. But yeah, the next part of the movie is essentially that Ned, MJ, and Peter are trying to get into MIT, specifically multiple colleges that they keep getting rejected from. But specifically, the last one was MIT, and all three of them get rejected for the reveal of Peter Parker being Spider-Man.
And because of the controversy surrounding did he murder Mysterio or not, who everybody was viewing as the savior of the world.
Yes.
And, you see him try to go to high school, his first day of high school, and he's just mobs of people. And his life's in turmoil, and not only his life, but MJ's and Ned's, his Aunt May's, all their lives are in turmoil. And he feels that his reveal of being Spider-Man has ruined the lives of the people he cares most about, and that's when he goes to Doctor Strange.
The that whole scene was really funny because everyone, in the trailer, we were trying to figure out why the Sanctum Sanctorum was covered in snow. And it was a very simple, because one of the doors was left open and a blizzard came in.
Yeah.
Which I thought was I was like, okay, everyone overthought that one.
But we do see that Wong is now the Sorcerer Supreme because Strange himself was gone for 5 years, and there had to be a Sorcerer Supreme, so it became Wong.
Which makes sense for what he was doing in Shang-Chi.
Yep.
It answers that question. We didn't have an answer for that. We were like, why is he working with Abomination? Why is he working with Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner? Like, what the fuck is happening? And now we understand. We unequivocally understand that him being Sorcerer Supreme, he has a lot of things on his plate now. that he has to take care of. So, fucking cool. But yeah, then Pete asks Doctor Strange to reverse time, which, you know, Strange is like, I don't have the stone anymore. I don't have the time stone. I can't do that. And then he remembers a spell, which I don't remember the name of the spell, but and Wong says, don't do that because that could, you know, that's dangerous. To which Strange says, we've done it before. Do you remember the party on blah, 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 blah? And Wong is like, no. And he's like,
He said, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. You went quiet. You're muted. You must have bumped your microphone. Okay. See if you can fix it. Technical difficulties, folks. This is what happens when you're live.
How do I sound now?
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay. Yeah, I nudged it. I can't touch it. That fucking sucks. I need a new laptop. But yeah, that the spell you see in the trailer is the one that he's, you know, from that conversation.
He's like, everybody on Earth will forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
And that's a very specific line. You have to keep that in mind through the whole movie, that it's everybody will forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. To which Peter keeps changing the parameters of the spell. He wants MJ to remember. Then he wants
MJ has to remember. Ned has to remember. Aunt May has to remember. I don't want to go through that again. That was awkward enough the first time.
But
Happy has to remember.
But as the spell is getting out of control, he says something that's very important. He basically says, I just want everyone that knew I was Spider-Man before to keep remembering, or to know that I'm Spider-Man. Because of that wording, as the spell was going chaotic, that's how we get the multiversal villains coming through. Like Doc Ock and Green Goblin. And Sandman and Electro and Lizard. But yeah, that's how they come through. And Strange is extremely pissed off at Peter because Peter tells Strange, like, the reason that I wanted to do this was because MJ and Ned aren't getting into college. I'm not getting into college. Steven's like, you mean to tell me that you just fucked up my spell, to which now it's corrupted and I have to contain it because you couldn't get into college? And Pete's like, yeah. He's like, he goes, you never thought to go and talk to the administration board? And Pete's like, I could do that?
Yeah.
Loses his mind. He kicks him out of the sanctum, and Pete goes and calls Flash Thompson, who got into MIT. We saw that earlier in a small scene where he, you know, Flash is being a fucking moron, per usual.
Yeah. He's telling everybody, I'm Spider-Man's best friend. And like, how'd you get into MIT? He's like, because, you know, I don't know Spider-Man.
But yeah, so he makes a deal with Flash to give him information about where he can go and talk to somebody who's part of that administration board. And that's where we get the scene on the bridge with Doc Ock that you have seen in the trailer. And that scene was very interesting because not only was the action sequences fucking amazing, but we also get to see how the nanites work in regards to Stark Tech and the tentacles. Because one of the big things about the tentacles from Spider-Man 2, it's made very clear that there's like a connective dot between the nanomachines and the tentacles.
The inhibitor chip.
And the inhibitor chip. So when the nanobots kind of go onto Doc Ock's tentacles, almost couldn't think of the word tentacles, Peter was actually able to connect to them and control them.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. And just before Green Goblin, by the way, I'm hammering through this. Just before Green Goblin like throws a pumpkin bomb and is about to blow up the bridge, Strange teleports Peter and Doc Ock into the under part of the sanctum. And in that conversation, which was really funny because Peter was kind of not quite grasping the multiverse stuff. And Doctor Strange just goes, wait, you know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man? And he was like, yes. And he goes, is that Peter Parker? No. And that's because that's not his Peter Parker. His Peter Parker is the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. And as we move forward, it's revealed in a way that like Peter now has to help capture all of the multiversal slips because it's technically his fault. Strange explains to Peter that by fucking up that spell, it has now brought in other villains from other multiverses, which, and as he quotes, we know frightening little about, which is accurate. The multiverse is infinite. Like that's the point of the multiverse theory. It's literally infinite.
It's also revealed he had already captured the lizard in the process of trying to find Peter, and
so he gives Peter this like gauntlet thing on his arm, or he takes it off of him and then puts it back on with the ability to like zap somebody and put them into a containment field within the underneath the sanctum. And Peter basically says, I need help from my two friends to do this. And he brings in MJ and Ned. And Ned is a super fucking fan of Doctor Strange and the Sanctum.
Yeah.
And in the process of like certain scenes leading up to other things, it's kind of hinted at that Ned has some magic in him, that he's able to do magic a little bit, but like he doesn't know that he can. Because Ned and Pete have like a handshake, and they do it and they touch fingertips and like a little spark happens in the distance.
Yeah.
So it's little things like that. And it was because, Ned was doing that to Peter when he was wearing a magic gauntlet.
Well, next we see Norman Osborn. He's at the homeless shelter. No,
we see the scene with Electro and Sandman next.
Oh, we see that next. That's right.
The only reason I know that is because Norman was the last one to show up at the same time.
That's right.
But after that fight sequence between like Sandman helping Peter, and then when Peter takes off his mask, he's like, I don't know you. Like he freaks the fuck out.
And then when he zapped Electro and Electro disappeared, he's like, what'd you do to him?
Yeah, Well, there's a small nod to that. I think a lot of people kind of missed it, but giving Electro the lineman worker outfit is actually a strong nod to Max Dillon's character in the comic. Because that's how Electro became Electro in the comic. He was a line worker for the electric company, got hit by lightning while working on a electrical line, and given those powers.
Oh, cool.
So him wearing that outfit for like a good chunk of the movie, 100% a nod to his comic book character. And again, I think a lot of people miss that because not a lot of people know Electro's origin.
Well, it was also told back in the 60s, and not being retold in some time.
True. Small side note that I think is a hilarious thing in the comics. So back in those days of the comics, Peter didn't know that Daredevil was blind, right?
Yeah.
So there was a whole comic where Peter and Daredevil take out Elektra. After they have Electro webbed and on the ground and tied up, Electro starts laughing, and Peter's like, "What are you laughing about?" And Electro says, "You don't even know the truth about your red friend there, do you?" Not red friend. He goes, "Your I think your partner is what he said." And Peter's like, "What? Who he is?" And he goes, "He's blind." Peter's like, "He's not blind." And Matt's just kind of like, And Peter goes, "How do you know he's blind? Like, where are you coming up with that nonsense?" And he goes, Hey, Daredevil, what color's my suit?" Daredevil's like, "What?" And he goes, and Peter's like, "He's not. Why does it matter what color your suit is?" He's like, "Hold on, what color is my suit?" And Daredevil's like, like he doesn't answer. And Pete's like, holy shit, you're actually blind? It's super fucking funny, but yeah, so that's that. But yeah, so yeah, after the Electro and Sandman bit, we get like Peter's called by by Aunt May and says, I think one of your friends is here. And that's because we get to see Green Goblin, like it's still the Green Goblin from the first Spider-Man movie in 2002. Like he was brought to our universe toward the end of that movie. Don't know when exactly, but it's clear because he has the two voices. He has the Green Goblin voice in his head, and then there's still Norman fighting it. He even punches the mask and breaks it. But he goes to Feast, and he meets up with Aunt May, and Peter talks to him, and he tells Peter, like, I think he tells his Aunt May too, he's like, I went to, where my building was supposed to be, and it's not there. My son doesn't exist. Like, he knows
there's no Oscorp, there's no business, my son's gone. Yeah.
So Aunt May tells Peter, I think your friend's insane, and he's like, no, it's a whole different thing, and I'll tell you later. They go back to the sanctum, and as they're kind of having this conversation and talking about science and what they can do to fix that problem, Doctor Strange comes in and just zaps Norman into a fucking containment field room, like a little, whatever you want to call that.
It's basically a prison cell.
Basically, yeah, magical prison cell. And he brings up the Machina Deca something.
The Deus Ex Machina. The MacGuffin.
It's the 100% the MacGuffin. Well, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but I know that in Italian, it literally translates to machine of return or something like that. So there's that. Like somebody translated it from Italian, or not Italian, but Latin. Italian. Shut up, Greg. Jesus. But yeah, this device, this cube, is meant to send everyone back
from the machine.
But the problem is right fucking before all this, they have the villains and Peter have this really cool conversation about what they were doing before they were transferred to the MCU universe. And it's basically revealed that their fate is to die fighting Spider-Man. That all 5 of them are destined to die. And Pete doesn't want that. He doesn't want them to die. He doesn't feel that that's right. So he wants to try to help them. And Strange comes in and is like, don't care. That's not how this works. Go fuck yourself, Peter. Like, we have to send them back straight up because the multiverse is a lot more dangerous than you think. To then which we get this really cool fucking fight sequence between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man over that cube.
In the Mirrorverse.
Yeah, we get the mirror dimension. We get him using portals to fucking fuck around with Peter and like make him flip his own leg is awesome. But we also get confirmation that the spider sense is a thing on its own. Strange, like, basically fist pushes Pete's soul out of his body, and as he's trying to grab the cube, Pete's incorporeal body is just doing this with the fucking cube, like, away from Strange. And at least I think that's the Peter tingle, as they call it in MCU. Yeah. But I could be wrong, but it's the only thing that makes sense.
No, I agree. He's like, how are you doing this? He's like, I don't know.
Yeah. So then he swims back into his body, and then that's when the mirror dimension part comes in. And Pete, being like the hyper genius that he is, he recognizes that the mirror dimension is just geometry.
He's like, I'm great at geometry.
So he webs up Strange and takes the cube and goes back into the regular universe. And he knows that
Strange trapped in the mirror universe. And when he does it, he also takes his ring.
Which was funny because as he does that, he takes it off of him, and Strange just goes, ow! Which I love that. But yeah, Pete's entire goal for the next 30 minutes of the movie is to help these villains. before sending them back to their respective universes, he wants to make sure that they're essentially cured of what is the problem right now. And this is something that I absolutely loved about it. This is core Peter Parker, helping others versus just beating them in the head and trying to get them to go to jail is not 100% what Peter Parker does. He, from my understanding of the character through the comic book and through various other media in regards to Pete, he wants to help first and foremost.
Yeah, he's always tried to help a villain reform or cure them of their condition. First and foremost, he's always tried to put their well-being before his own.
Yes, and that really is cemented with this next few scenes in the movie, because Pete works with, like, there's a great line, by the way, before all of this, where he's talking about using science and technology to cure all of them, and Norman says, I'm something of a scientist myself, which I was like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah,
so
great callback to the first Spider-Man movie.
Also,
which each of them had some lines that were callbacks to their respective movies.
Oh yeah. Which I want to point something small out real quick, that I love that from the Raimi trilogy they use Sandman and not Harry, Green Goblin, or Venom.
In the original trailer we saw for No Way Home, there was a shot of the Hairy Goblin, or else it was the Dane DeHaan Goblin. But it was.
I don't think it was either one. I don't think
it looked like them. It looked like them, but yeah, it's hard to say. It could have been a shot of Norman later.
I think it was a shot of Norman later, but they didn't have the CGI 100%, and they were just kind of nailing it as best they could based on like pre-production images. Genuinely, like, because that's the thing. A lot of these movies, especially when it comes to costumes, go through a lot of what do you call that? It's like drawings and sketches and stuff like that to try to get the feel right. And I think that was definitely what was up with Norman's character, because like it's very clear that he loses a chunk of his identity in regards to being the Green Goblin. And I think that what we saw in those trailers was like it looked like the Dane DeHaan Green Goblin, but it wasn't. It was just like, can we make the design kind of look like that,
Gotcha.
And that's my theory, because I don't think that they ever had a different Green Goblin other than Norman.
Yeah.
But the reason that I also say that I'm glad that they used Sandman and not the other two is because the original story that Raimi wanted to tell didn't really involve Harry becoming Green Goblin. It didn't involve Eddie Brock and Venom. That was all added because Sony wanted that. And like, if you ever, there's a documentary on like, or not a documentary, but like a whole thing on why Spider-Man 3 is such a bad movie. And it's a lot of that. It's a lot of meddling from Sony. So
yeah,
that's why I'm glad they just used Sandman. I feel like that's
he was the best part of Spider-Man 3.
100%. Like no disagreement here at all, but that's why I'm glad they used Sandman and nobody else. So yeah, the next montage we see, or if you want to call it a montage, the next like long sequence is Pete in Harry's apartment, or Happy's apartment, coming up with ways to cure everybody, and he ends up finding a way to fix Norman's craziness. Not Norman, I'm sorry, Otto's craziness. The inhibitor chip breaks and it fuses to his spine and makes him crazy. He's listening to the fucking tentacles. This little device fixes that. And Octavius becomes sane again, normal. To which he then puts a thing on Max's chest to basically absorb the electricity. And Max doesn't like it. Max is very unlike. He's just like, no, this was wrong. Lizard is in a fucking truck outside the building in a feast truck, just kind of chilling. And suddenly, in this moment, Peter's spider sense goes off, and he can't ignore it. Like it's loud and long, but he can't quite figure out where it's coming from. And it's not until he realizes what's going on that he realizes it's Goblin. It's Norman that he has to look out from. It flips him to the little robot that Iron Man had.
Dummy.
Dummy, that's right. Thank you. I was trying to remember his fucking name. And he has an all-out brawl with the villains. Yeah, Max rips the thing off his chest. Otto basically runs away. And the DO, what they call it's the damage control group from that we see in Homecoming. The DOCA?
Oh, I don't remember exactly what they're...
DOCO? Department of Damage Control. So, anyway.
DODC.
DODC, that's right. Thank you. Jesus. Yeah, so it's the DODC, and they are they're there and like they show up at the complex where everything's going down, and the lizard breaks out of the fucking feast truck and starts climbing up the side of the building while Peter's being fucking body slammed through walls and shit by Green Goblin. Otto Octavius takes off. Max fucking takes off. Sandman, I believe, also takes off after punching Peter once or some shit. And Green Goblin, like I said, just fucking is just annihilating Pete all the way to the ground floor. Before all of this happened, you see Aunt May take a needle with I don't want to say a potion.
It's a hypodermic full of a cure.
A cure for Green Goblin, yeah. And so there's this scene where Green Goblin is just choking Peter on the ground floor of this building. And Aunt May runs up and stabs him. And he laughs because he's like, "You think I'd actually give you the cure to my, to what, my problem or whatever?" And the glider comes in and hits Aunt May really fucking hard. And then he jumps on the glider. And he basically tells Peter that that's the problem with Peter Parker, is that his empathy and desire to do what's right are wrong. And he goes to throw a pumpkin bomb at Aunt May, which Peter deflects and gets the full force of it. And he gets up, beaten the shit out of, and Aunt May gets up, and Aunt May, he's just like, "I'm sorry, this is all my fault. Strange was right. We should have just sent them back." To which Aunt May was like, "No, absolutely not. That's not who Peter Parker is. That's not what we do. We do what's right regardless of our own well-being, because with great responsibility must also come, with great power must also come great responsibility."
There you go.
Which is actually a direct quote from the comic book that Aunt May gives him. Because the line that Uncle Ben gives in the first movie is A, it doesn't come from Uncle Ben, it comes from Aunt May in the comic, and B, it's not the same quote. But the one they gave in this movie is exactly the quote from the comic book. Thank you, Internet, for pointing that out to me, because I wouldn't have known that otherwise. And then Aunt May collapses. And that's when there wasn't a dry eye in the house.
Yep. She died.
I cried like a bitch.
Yeah, I think everybody did.
I was sitting next to my buddy Andy, and he just tosses me a napkin. He's like, "Here." I'm like, "Thank you." But yeah, it was rough. And so after that, we get MJ and Ned inside Ned's house with his grandmother, who was hilarious, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
And they don't know where to find Peter. They see on the news what happened at Happy's apartment. Happy, was also arrested, by the way. And Ned's trying to figure out where they can find Peter, and so MJ remembers how like Strange kind of used that ring device that Peter got off his finger.
That's when Ned's saying, I wish we could just find him, and he's making crazy motions with his hands, and a portal started to open. She's like, "What'd you just do?"
That's right. Yeah. Because I was like, I remember that they realized very quickly that that's how the fucking thing worked. But so yeah, they go. Ned's like, I want to. I think he's holding it like
find
this.
Peter Parker.
Yeah, find Peter Parker. Or no, it's this. That's right. It's this. Find Peter Parker, and he opens up a portal, and you see a figure in an alleyway, and they start yelling, "Peter, Peter!" And as they do, a Spider-Man sprints at them and jumps through. They take off the mask, and
Andrew Garfield. And theater erupts with applause.
Oh yeah. See, that's the thing. That those like him coming through that portal and Matt Murdock had the exact same reaction of like when for me, like, because again, crowded theater, but it was the same reaction of when Captain America picks up Mjolnir, right? Or Captain Marvel comes in through the fucking atmosphere, or something to that effect. Like, or when the fucking,
or you hear
on your left.
Yeah, I love how you were saying that as I was saying that.
Exactly. Like him coming through the portal had the exact same eruption of cheers and applause that Andrew Garfield, like, it was the exact same for me. But
I love how she's like, "Prove you're Spider-Man." He's like, and he jumps up and he's hanging from his fingertips. She's like, "That's not enough." He's like, "Well, of course this is enough. This is totally enough." She's like, "No, it's not enough. Crawl around." He's like, "I'm not going to crawl around." And then Ned's grandma's like, "Can you get the cobweb?" He's like, "Okay, sure." And he crawls over and gets the cobweb.
Yeah, no, that was fucking hilarious.
And then they try to find him again, and they open up another portal, and in steps Tobey Maguire.
Tobey fucking, and again another fucking eruption of cheers, and it was really great because the Tobey and Andrew see each other, and they fucking do the exact same move to one another. Like they flip in a mirrored version and thwip each other, or go to thwip each other, and then Ned's grandma's like, "You clean that shit off." That shit was amazing. But yeah, it was really fucking cool because Andrew and Tobey just slipped right back into their respective Peters.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was like docking.
For the listeners at home that aren't watching this on YouTube, I just gave Maya a dirty look.
Oh God. How could I not? How could I not make that joke? How you would have made that same joke?
I know, it's funny. I just wasn't expecting, because I'm thinking about fucking multiple spiders. But yeah, so through conversation, hilarious conversation, fucking everyone, with having just cried over Aunt May's death and is like this emotional roller coaster, it's basically revealed that they need to find where Pete is. And Tobey says that my spot was always the Chrysler Building. Was it Chrysler Building? Yeah, it was Chrysler Building. And
Andrew says Empire State.
Better view is what he said. I was like, that's fucking funny. To which they realized that their Pete's location would be the top of the high school. And there's a great shot where he's sitting on, he's just disheveled. Like he's just
he's emotionally destroyed, inconsolable. Yeah.
And MJ and Ned show up and they hug him, and he's crying, and you're just really sad. And then the two Peters drop down and they go to talk to Pete, and it gets emotional again, where Tobey essentially says that he knows what he's going through, and he's like, "Don't tell me you know what I'm going through." To which Andrew says, I don't know what you're going through, but I can tell you what I went through. And he tells the story of when he lost Gwen Stacy, which again mirrored the comics quite closely.
And then Tobey tells how Uncle Ben died in his arms
because he wanted revenge. He wanted to kill.
And then they all say with great power comes great responsibility. And
that's when Pete realizes that
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that
so
moment.
if you did, there was another part right there where there wasn't a dry fucking eye in the house. Like if you weren't tearing up at that scene, are you human? Are you a person? That shit was sad as fuck. But then we get probably one of the coolest moments in the movie, and that's when
They science the shit out of it.
They science the fucking shit out of it. And I loved it. Oh my God, did I love it. I was so happy with that part. But what it made it even funnier was the webbing conversation. Because
Yes.
we all said, like, if it is that these two Spider-Man are in this movie, they have to have a conversation about how Tobey's Spider-Man has organic webbing.
Yeah.
But what made it even funnier was like Tom Holland was like, okay, that's weird, but whatever, and kind of moves on. But Andrew Garfield, he was grossed out by it.
Yeah, he's like, does that come out of everywhere?
Yeah.
What? No. Come on.
Oh so fucking funny.
I loved how they were just immediately like brothers.
Yeah.
It was great. Oh my God, it was so fucking good.
It was so amazing.
And then how they're trying to come up, a call system. I'm Peter 1, you're Peter 2, and Garfield's like, okay, I'm Peter 3.
And this was only sparked because Ned was like, Peter, and they all went, yeah. They were trying. He's like, no, my Peter. That shit was fucking funny. But yeah, like they basically come up with ways to cure all the other villains that slip through, with their science ability, with their knowledge of their own villains, and then the technology of that universe. Because that's one of the big things to keep in mind about this universe is it's not only like in the distant future from their, because that was the other thing they did. They made sure to age up the Peter based in that regard. So all the villains came through right before they were about to die, but these two Peters aged. They got older.
Yeah.
And the last time we saw Tobey was in 2007, and the last time we saw Andrew Garfield was 2012. So take those years, and that's when we're seeing this Peter, which I thought was really fucking cool. They had long conversations about like what fucking they each went through in regards to the trauma that they experienced from their respective stories. And I fucking love that. It was so clever. So to further that in regards to their science, I was like, this is awesome. But then they basically try to figure out where they need to go, and they decide the Statue of Liberty is a great location to have this battle. It's away from the middle of the city, and a giant monument might be destroyed, but them's the breaks. So Peter contacts the Daily Bugle, and he says, basically tells like the villains like where they're going to be at. And one of the things I really liked about the Statue of Liberty in this scene was that it was they were building a giant.
They were constructing a giant Captain America shield to replace the torch.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to think. I was trying to say. My brain was like, not today. What I really liked about that was it kind of showed how this universe is idolizing Captain America. How we as comic book readers kind of idolize Captain America. And I really enjoyed that. But Peter contacts the Daily Bugle and says, hey, villains, this is where I am, like more or less. And there are, before the action sequence of them trying to cure all of the villains, there's a great little line with or a great conversation between all of them. Andrew and Tobey are talking, and there's that whole line about, Andrew looks at or not Andrew, but Tobey looks at Andrew and is like, dude, you're amazing. And I was just like, that's fucking funny by itself. They talk about like Tobey has a back problem, And so they crack it like Andrew cracks his back, and just
Yeah.
and then just like then Pete like our Tom. I have to do it that way because otherwise I don't know how I'm getting through this. But Tom like lands above them, and they're talking about the organic webbing because Andrew's still confused by that, right? And he's like, I've been meaning to ask you about that. Like, how does that work? And Toby's like, I don't know, like same way that you breathe. But that whole fucking conversation was like, I could watch another hour of that, genuinely. Like these three Spider-Men talking to one another and trying to figure this shit out and like the differences between their universes. I'm like, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah, it was great.
But they go to fight the villains, and they kind of get their asses kicked because they're not coordinated. And they also can't. This is where they're trying to figure out how to communicate to one another. And this another little Easter egg that I thought was so fucking funny was that Andrew's Spider-Man didn't ever get a third movie. So when when Tom's like, I'm Spider-Man 1, you're Spider-Man 2, and looks at Toby, and then Andrew goes, and I'm Spider-Man 3, I get it. Fucking, oh dude, I was laughing so hard at that. But that action sequence, dude, of them taking out each one was so fucking cool.
But I love that how they were like, regrouping, and they're like, why are we getting our asses kicked? Because we don't know how to work as a team. We've never been part of a team. And Tom's like, I've been part of a team. I was an Avenger. Right, yeah. Toby's like, oh, congratulations. That's awesome. What is that?
Is that a band? Are you in a band?
Yeah. Oh my God.
So fucking funny.
Yeah, it was great. Oh.
But yeah, like Otto shows up at one point and helps them fucking cure Max, and they actually cure everybody. And Strange comes through a portal after getting out of the mirror dimension, and he grabs the box from Ned and takes the ring back. And Ned and MJ are like, stop, wait, like don't press the button yet. Peter's doing it. He actually is curing them. To which Strange is like, well, I'll be damned. That's insane.
What about the whole MJ falling? Peter misses her.
Yeah, that was.
Toby misses her. And Andrew gets her and saves her. And that was like his moment of redemption. He's like, I did it.
He's tearing up and kind of getting a little cry. And I'm like, oh, my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was emotional as fuck. There's a few moments that are just like really fucking good, and dude, like, again, it's another reason I want to go back and watch it. But one of the big things is that during their fight, the shield falls, and after everyone is essentially healed from their whatever you want to call it, the Green Goblin comes in and starts to fuck with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Trying to get him to believe that he's wrong, and Pete beats the fuck out of him. Like,
he's literally about to kill him. He's beating him so hard, he is about to kill him.
And he picks up the glider and is about to stab him, but Toby comes in and is like, that's not who we are. Like, stops him and doesn't say a word. But that's when Andrew throws the syringe to heal him or to cure him, and he stabs him in the neck with it. Yeah, that was that was it with that regard. Like, he's like, what have I done? He stabs Toby in the back, by the way. Like,
yeah, Goblin does.
Yeah, right before Tom stabs him in the neck, he stabs Toby in the back, and Toby's laying there, and they go over over his body, and they're like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I've been stabbed before, I'll be fine. And Peter like flies up to, not flies up, but he webs all the way up to the top of the Statue of Liberty, where Doctor Strange is trying to contain the spell that essentially Goblin released. because he blew up the cube with the corrupted spell, and it's like it literally ripped holes in reality.
Yeah, and you see silhouettes of villains getting ready to come through. I mean, you actually see Rhino about to break through.
One of them, I'm convinced, is fucking Craven.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. Like, it was like he was trying to contain, but he's like, I can't stop them. Like, he was trying to contain the spell again, but he couldn't do it. And Pete realized that the only way to fix this is to basically finish the spell, but worse. Like, it had to be a stronger spell than what was originally happening, and that was that everyone's going to forget Peter Parker. Plain and simple. Not forget that Peter is Spider-Man, but just forget Peter Parker. Everyone. Yep. And Strange is like, all right, I'll do it. It's nice knowing you. And Pete goes down and he says bye to the other Peters. And there's a great line before Peter goes and says goodbye to Ned and MJ where Andrew goes, you're in a lot of pain, aren't you? And he's like, yep.
Oh, yep.
And there was a moment that I feel like was a little improvised where Tom starts to walk away, turns around and gives him a big old fucking hug. And I was like, that was 100% like Tom's fucking idea. He was like, I got to give them a hug. I got to make it like, thank you for setting the stage for me kind of like attitude towards it. And I'm like, that had to be what that hug was. 100% Tom's idea. It feels like it anyway, but I could be wrong. But he has a very emotional goodbye to MJ and Ned. And it was very fucking emotional. Like, again, another very like, I'm going to cry in the fucking theater scene.
Yeah. And then he tells them, he's like, you're going to forget me. And they're like, what? No. He's like, you're going to forget me. And she's like, promise me you'll find me again and make me remember.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I promise. And then they have their kiss. And she says, I love you. And he's like, and she stops him. She's like, tell me when you find me.
Yeah. Which was heartbreaking. The spell gets released and we jump forward 3 months. There's this, Peter, it's now snowing in New York, and Peter walks up to a coffee shop. It's the same coffee shop that MJ works at in the beginning of the show, or movie, I should say. And Ned comes in, and he like, she starts to wave at somebody, and he thinks it's him for like a second, and it wasn't. It was Ned. Ned was walking in behind him, and he realizes that she doesn't remember who I am, and there's a very emotional scene where he's saying quotes and phrases that she would have said in a certain way, or knowing certain things about her, which she's very curious about. She's even wearing the broken Black Dahlia necklace that he gave her in Far From Home, which it feels like that there would be a part of her that still remembers him, but we don't ever get that. We get her just like, all right, bye, weirdo, which makes sense and is heartbreaking. And Ned doesn't even acknowledge his existence. That was rough. And then after that scene, it shows him going to Aunt May's grave, and Happy walks up, and Happy, the question that Happy asks, like, another heartbreaking moment where he's just like, so how'd you know her? It's like, oh my God. Fucking
He's like, rough. Through Spider-Man. He said, me too.
Yeah. And I was like, ugh, like, it just sucks. Like, Peter had to sacrifice everything to save the world. He had to make arguably the ultimate sacrifice, where Peter Parker essentially dies. And he knows, like, in a way that everyone, like, he can't really tell everyone or anyone that he's Spider-Man or that he's Peter Parker or whatever, because he knows that that's dangerous. He knows what that brought. He saw the danger that he put everyone in as he was Peter Parker for the last few years. And he doesn't want his the people he cares about the most to experience what Aunt May went through, which is why he just walks away from everybody. And he, gets a shitty apartment in Queens, the same kind of shitty apartment we've always known Pete to have.
A part of me wished that fucking the original landlord from Spider-Man 2 was in it. I would have loved to have seen that, but
Yeah. Well, maybe in the future, because we did get confirmation that there are 3 more MCU Spider-Man movies in the works. And
he's got a new costume.
yeah, he's got his own.
Very classic, beautiful looking costume.
Yeah, exactly. And he swings over Rockefeller Center over the giant Christmas tree, and the movie goes to credits. It goes to cinematic credits because we get a mid-credit scene. Now, we're going to spoil the special scene in Let There Be Carnage, the latest Venom movie, because honestly, the last shot is not tied to the major plot of Let There Be Carnage, just FYI. But in the last shot, Venom is explaining to Eddie Brock that him being a Venom symbiote, or just a symbiote in general, that they have knowledge of multiple universes. And that that kind of knowledge would fry Eddie's little tiny human brain, as he puts it. Just at that moment, everything kind of wigs the fuck out, and he walks over to a TV screen to which he sees the Daily Bugle talking about Spider-Man being
Peter
Parker. So that was the last shot of that. So
and that's when Venom goes, "Oh, this one looks tasty."
Yeah, that's right.
And look at the screen.
So this ties into the mid-credit scene for this movie. A lot of people who hadn't seen Let There Be Carnage was very confused by this, but whatever. But yeah, Eddie Brock is sitting at a Tijuana fucking bar, and the guy from Ted Lasso. I know you haven't watched Ted Lasso, but there's a guy named I can't think of his name, but he's hilarious because he's a Brazilian trade, I guess you should say. So, and his phrase is "football is life," but it's the same actor. So, a lot of people who've watched Ted Lasso have said that to me, like it's that guy. But that guy is essentially explaining to Eddie and Venom in a way that this universe is full of superheroes, and he's trying to wrap his head around it. And just as like he's about to pay the bill, he stands up and disappears, much like everyone else did when the spell was completed to make everyone forget Peter Parker. And he disappears, and the bartender is like mad. He's like, I don't remember what he says, but
he's like, and of course he didn't pay or something along those lines.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah, and as it zooms in on the top of the bar, to which a little group of symbiote was left behind. Which I've seen Spider-Man get the Venom suit or the black suit in a number of ways. Mm-hmm. Never have I seen it done this way. Not one time.
Oh, just a little bit of goop?
From a multiversal Venom.
Oh, from a multiversal. Okay.
So that's new. But yeah, so that's going to lead into arguably the Venom symbiote coming to the MCU and Pete getting the black suit and Venom being introduced as a whole. So that's fucking exciting as shit. And then everyone stayed in the theater because you don't leave a fucking Marvel movie until the credits are completely over. But it wasn't a
scene. It was a trailer.
It was a full-on trailer, which is out now, by the way. It just released today of recording. Like, you can watch the trailer outside of going to see Spider-Man No Way Home. But it's a trailer for the Multiverse of Madness, where we get to see a conversation between Strange and
Wanda.
We also get glimpses at America Chavez, which I'm so glad that she's being introduced in the MCU. She's a rad character.
Mm-hmm.
We get a glimpse of a giant tentacle monster that I thought was Shimagoreth, but people are saying it's not. We'll see. It looks like Shimagoreth. But yeah, like, go watch that trailer. If you haven't seen No Way Home and you've made it to this far into the fucking podcast, what are you doing? But yeah, that's it, and that's all. Like, and that's the thing. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're not getting anything Marvel until Multiverse of
Doctor
Madness.
Strange, yeah. And I think they pushed that back to May, didn't they?
Yeah. So for 5 months, we're not getting anything Marvel, which after this year is going to kill me.
Well, that's okay.
Worse.
This movie had so much payoff that I never knew that I needed.
So here's my thing. A lot of people are saying that this movie is better than Into the Spider-Verse, right? And I get why. I totally understand why. But I'm going to make an argument. I don't necessarily agree. I think this movie is very good. It is fantastic. It's satisfying, wonderful. I still prefer Into the Spider-Verse for arguably one thing over No Way Home. Animation.
Okay, that's fair. You're not the first person that said that.
Fair enough. I understand that because that to me, like, both movies are so incredible that trying to figure out which one is the best one is like, which do I like best? This orange or this orange? It's like it's just too difficult. Like, they're both 10 out of 10s, A pluses, whatever you want to fuck out. By the way, that's my score for this movie is A plus. But it's like,
mine too.
I, in a way, love the Spider-Verse. Fucking love the Spider-Verse. If you haven't read the Spider-Verse comics, I highly recommend them. I hope, in a way, like, this event of No Way Home brings the Inheritors to the MCU, but I doubt it. Maybe we'll get the Inheritors in Across the Spider-Verse. Who knows? But essentially, the Inheritors are guys that literally eat spiders because it gives them, like, more power to be multiversal and whatnot. It's insane. Spider-Verse and Spider-Geddon are the two comics that I would recommend. But anyway, I digress. I wanted more spiders in this movie. Like, if I had a nitpicky problem with this movie, it's that. It's that it's just Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. And I get why. I get the reason behind it. But most people don't read the comics like I do. Most people's entire
their entire familiarity and fandom is based on the cinematic movies we've been given and nothing else.
Right. But even in that regard, like, we could have gotten Miles, we could have gotten fucking Spider-Ham, we could have gotten something like that because, it's all Sony property. I don't see why not.
Could have gotten Nick Hammond, the original Peter Parker from the 70s live action show and movies.
Could have gotten fucking Japanese Spider-Man with Leo Paradon. Again, it's a nitpick. It's not a legit complaint. It's just something that I would have liked to see. It was something that I think would have made this movie just that much better, personally. But when I'm a big fan of animation. So when it comes to styles of animation and things in that regard, like, you're always going to get me over live action. You're always going to get me to be excited for that. And I think that's the literal only thing that makes Spider-Verse more entertaining to me than No Way Home. Genuinely. Like, if you gave me the choice to watch both, it'd be a tough choice, but I'd go with Spider-Verse.
I would watch both.
I said you only have time to watch one.
I'm going to watch... Yeah, I get that. If you could only watch one, well, since I've seen Into the Spider-Verse several times and I've only seen No Way Home once so far, I'm going to choose No Way Home. But for me, as of right now, based on my initial reaction and letting it marinate for a few days, I really think this is the best superhero movie I've ever seen. It's
definitely the best live-action superhero movie. One of the big things about this movie for me is that Peter Parker is always a source of good. He's a source of doing the right thing regardless of his own well-being. And this movie exemplifies that to the nth degree. And it's honestly the first time we've seen Pete do that in the MCU. he sacrificed his own physical well-being to do the right thing, but to this degree, no, this is a first. And it was again exemplified through the other spiders as well. So, but we should wrap this podcast up. It is now 2 hours and fucking 30 minutes. Good gravy.
Yeah, and I am starving.
I gotta get. It is. Yeah, we gotta wrap this fucker up. Okay, everybody. So A+ from both of us, I think, right? Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Everything this episode got an A+, which is insane. Nothing was bad that we reviewed today.
Well, like I said at the top of the show, this week has been the greatest week of the year in forms of entertainment for me.
It really has. It really fucking has. But yeah. So let me grab my phone. So next week, everybody, we're gonna be reviewing Spider. Wow, I can't stop saying Spider. We're reviewing The Matrix Resurrections and the first and second, I could be wrong, episode of Book of Boba Fett. It might just be the first episode. But both exciting. I'm excited for both things. So we're going to review those next week. Make sure you follow us on the socials listed below. Check out the Teespring store. We have new merch on there with the new art, if you will, new-ish art. And check out the YouTube channel. Go give that a follow and a like and a subscribe. Helps us out with the algorithm. Even if you don't watch it, I totally get it because it's just really me in regards to video. But yeah, Maya, where can folks find you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook under my name. It's not hard to find, easy to figure out. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, they're attached to my Facebook profile. It's a public profile. You can do so. If you want to catch me on other shows, I'm on the Realm of Collectors YouTube channel every other Wednesday on a live action figure review show at 9:30 p.m. Eastern called Figure Banging, and sometimes on alternating Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on Shelf Gravy when I have something to work on. But yeah, that's where you can find me. What about you, Greg?
You can find me on all socials under Chub Rock Geek. Also recorded a recent episode with Anthony at Mission Start Podcast where we talk about the Game Award stuff. So if that interests you, go check that out. That is Mission Start Podcast. Other than that, yeah, I think that's it for me. Again, guys, Matrix Resurrections, Book of Boba Fett, very exciting next week. Come and join us after watching those. And we'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody.